Welcome to Let Jesus Be Your Doctor, the true path to healing for body and soul.
Imagine being trapped in this agonizing pain of your own making. You are, surrounded by people who could help you, who are actively trying to reach you.
Right.
But you are completely blind to them because you just cannot stop staring at your own wounds.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we are looking at a spiritual landscape where the cure for your deepest, most consuming pain might actually be, entirely ignoring it.
It's a profound and frankly unnerving shift in perspective. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are stepping into a very uniquely spiritual, deeply contemplative space today.
We really are.
We want to really take our time with this material, allowing it to breathe, because the concepts we are exploring carry a massive spiritual weight.
Yes, we are slowing down today for a deliberate, reverent exploration of the soul. We're looking at the nature of the afterlife and the ultimate path to true freedom.
Exactly.
Our sources for this deep dive are gathered around a beautiful central theme titled, Let Jesus Be Your Doctor.
Such a beautiful title.
It really is. And we're going to be looking closely at a fascinating revelation received by the Christian mystic Bertha Dudde, specifically Revelation number 2914.
From October 8th, 1943.
Right, 1943.
Well.
And alongside that profound text, we have supporting biblical scriptures, wisdom from various Christian mystics and teachers, and finally, a very practical guide for applying this divine law to our daily lives.
And if we had to, distill the central thesis of this entire deep dive, the core message pulsing through every single one of these sources, it would be this. Self-love binds the soul, but selfless love leads to freedom and to God.
Self-love binds the soul. It's such a striking statement. It lands heavily.
It really does.
Especially in our modern era where we are constantly, almost aggressively told to prioritize ourselves, to focus on our own healing, our own journey.
Yeah, that inward focus is everywhere today.
Right. So let's look directly into this 1943 revelation from Bertha Dudde, because it gives us a really vivid, almost mechanical explanation of how the spiritual realm actually works and precisely why a soul can get trapped there.
It does. It provides a theological architecture for the afterlife that is entirely based on the currency of love.
Right.
The text opens with this foundational premise. In the spiritual realm, acts of love have the exact same effect as they do on earth. They result in a literal influx of divine power and spiritual progress.
It says that love is the only path that smooths the way to God, and that being close to God is the ultimate goal of all beings.
Which makes perfect sense within a Christian framework. God is love, therefore the only way to move toward God is to become like him through love.
Exactly.
The revelation explains that in the spiritual realm, there are beings of light who preach this exact message. They are actively trying to make unredeemed souls realize that love is their only path to liberation.
Right, they try to help.
Yeah, they even bring these trapped souls opportunities to unfold in love, setting up scenarios where they could choose to help someone else.
Okay, let's unpack this, because there is a really challenging concept introduced right after that, and it feels entirely backwards.
What part?
The text says that developing through love is actually much harder in the spiritual realm than it is on earth, as long as the soul is ignorant. Why would it be harder?
That is a big question.
Right. On earth, we have bills to pay, physical illness, terrible traffic, exhausting jobs.
Yeah.
Shouldn't the spiritual realm be completely free of all that noise, making it infinitely easier to just focus on love? Why is the soul suddenly worse off?
It is a brilliant question, and it gets to the absolute core of why this text is so profound. We have to look at why human beings develop self-focus in the first place.
Okay.
On Earth, self-preservation is a necessary biological imperative. You have to feed your physical body, you have to find shelter.
You have to protect yourself.
Exactly, from physical threats. That requires a certain degree of inward focus just to survive.
Right. You have to look out for number one, literally, or you won't survive the winter.
Yes. But when you cross over into the spiritual realm, you no longer have a physical body to maintain. There is no winter to survive.
Oh, I see.
But if a soul crosses over, still clinging entirely to that earthly survival instinct, that intense inward focus, it metastasizes. Without a physical body to justify it, that self-preservation instinct turns into a spiritual cancer.
Wow.
The original German text calls it Eigenliebe, or self-love. And in this context, it doesn't mean a healthy self-esteem or taking a walk for your mental health. It means a complete, consuming, absolute absorption with oneself.
That makes so much sense. It makes me think of an analogy. It's like being in a pitch black room, but you have a blindingly bright spotlight strapped to your head.
Oh, that's a good way to picture it.
And it is shining directly and only on your own face. You are hyper aware of your own situation, your own pain, your own distress.
Every single flaw in your immediate circumstance.
Exactly. But because of the glare of that light, you become completely blind to everyone else's suffering in the room.
That is a perfect, terrifying visualization of what Dude is describing. The text explicitly says that the soul only touches its own lot.
Only its own lot.
Right. It cannot see the distress of other souls because it is so deeply entrenched in this self-love. And here's the profound, tragic irony. This very self-love, this desperate attempt to protect itself, is the exact thing causing its agonizing, unredeemed state.
And it becomes a self-perpetuating trap. The text says this self-love literally hinders the soul from doing any unselfish acts of love.
Yeah.
The soul views itself as the absolute center of the universe.
Yes.
It feels unhappy, and crucially, it feels unjustly unhappy.
That sense of injustice is a key symptom of this spiritual sickness. The soul looks around and thinks, well, why am I suffering? I don't deserve this.
Right.
The text notes that this deep self-love actually veils the soul's own flaws. It creates a massive blind spot. Yet simultaneously, the soul can easily see all the flaws of the other souls around it, and it feels superior to them. It is trapped in a loop of victimhood and judgment.
It is a toxic, paralyzing combination. You are blind to your own sins, hyper-aware of everyone else's, convinced you're a victim of cosmic injustice, and totally consumed by your own pain.
Yes, and the consequence of this, according to the Revelation, is just tragic.
Let's really listen to this part. It says that because of this state, the soul cannot feel any love for its suffering environment. It becomes hard. It becomes unfeeling. It takes no part in the lives of the other souls.
And because it shuts itself off from giving love, it shuts itself off from receiving the divine influx of power that we mentioned earlier. It is starving itself spiritually while complaining that it is hungry.
Wow.
The text says that in this state, the soul will bitterly feel its distress for what can often be an endlessly long time. The agony is prolonged indefinitely until the soul softens.
Endless time in a prison of your own making. It's a heavy, heavy thought. But the beauty of this revelation is that it doesn't leave us in that dark room.
No, thank God it doesn't.
It provides the mechanism for liberation. If this self-focus is a self-perpetuating trap, how does a soul rewrite that instinct when they are already paralyzed by it? Because the beings of light can't force them.
And they wouldn't. The turning point in Dudde's revelation is deeply rooted in the concept of free will. The beings of light can instruct, they can prompt, they can bring opportunities, but they cannot force a single action.
Right, it has to be a choice.
The text is very clear. The soul must, out of its own completely free will, decide to be helpful.
It must actively put aside its I love, its ego. It has to consciously ignore its own overwhelming distress and try to alleviate the suffering of the fellow souls around it.
Yes.
And when it finally makes that choice, the transformation described in the text is just beautiful to read.
It is an immediate spiritual reaction, a literal change in the spiritual physics of the realm. Dudde writes that when the soul attempts to help others, its previously powerless state experiences a sudden change.
Like a valve is opened.
Exactly. The soul begins to feel an influx of strength. It becomes more and more capable of acting in love.
The environment literally changes. The text says the soul recognizes that it is getting lighter around it. The spotlight turns outward.
Yes, it begins to see things that bring it joy. Its knowledge expands. And its will to reach God grows stronger and stronger.
The soul realizes that by seeking to redeem others through love, it is actually redeeming itself.
And we have to pause and realize that this mechanic of the spiritual realm isn't just an isolated idea from a 1943 revelation. It is the absolute bedrock of Christian theology.
It really is.
If we look at the biblical echoes provided in our sources, we see this exact same principle stated plainly. Take 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5, which simply states, "Love does not seek its own."
True love doesn't revolve around its own well-being. Its gaze is directed outward. And we see that again in Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others.
Right.
The spiritual impulse here is that the way out of inner confinement always, invariably, begins the moment a person looks beyond themselves.
What's fascinating here is if we follow that thread, it leads us directly to the words of Jesus in Luke chapter 6, verse 38. He says, "Give, and it will be given to you."
That's the core of it.
In the kingdom of God, we are dealing with a deeply counterintuitive, paradoxically beautiful law.
It goes entirely against human nature, doesn't it?
Completely.
Human nature, especially when we are hurting, says, I am empty, I am wounded, therefore I must gather, I must focus entirely on filling myself up and protecting my boundaries.
Precisely. But the divine spiritual law dictates that true freedom and the actual capacity to receive only comes through the act of giving.
Wow.
The moment you give out of your own emptiness to help someone else, a channel opens up for divine power to flow into you. Who gives, receives. Who loves, becomes free. It is the only way the math of the kingdom works.
To really see the depth of this, our sources pull from a variety of Christian teachers and mystics across different eras. It proves this isn't just a niche interpretation. It is a universal spiritual truth that has been discovered again and again.
Yes, across centuries.
Let's look at what Bruno Groening had to say. He was known for his extensive healing ministry in post-war Germany, and he said, "Do not only think of yourself. If you think of others and want to help them, the power comes to you."
Notice the specific phrasing there. The desire to help others is the exact mechanism that draws the healing tower to you.
It's not a transaction.
Exactly. It is not a reward for good behavior. God isn't sitting there saying, you did a nice thing, here's some healing. It is spiritual physics. The act of turning outward is what plugs you into the power source.
Then we have Luisa Picaretta, a mystic whose writings are so incredibly deep. She provides what I think is a brilliant spatial metaphor for this exact process.
I love this quote.
She wrote, "The soul that forgets itself finds room for God."
Let's really dwell on that image for a moment. Finds room.
Yeah.
It implies that before this, there was no room.
Right.
If your heart and mind are entirely filled with the furniture of your own ego, your own worries, your own pain, your endless analysis of your own life, there is simply no vacancy. Selflessness is the act of emptying the room.
It's the clutter. We fill our inner lives with so much clutter.
Right.
We are constantly rearranging the furniture of our own anxieties, trying to make the room more comfortable, when the real solution is to throw the furniture out the window.
Yes.
Selflessness clears out the clutter of the ego to create the physical and spiritual capacity for divine life to enter and dwell. As she follows up, the more the soul loves, the more it is filled with divine life.
It echoes the sentiments of Thomas à Kempis from his classic centuries-old work, The Imitation of Christ. He understood this dynamic perfectly.
He really did.
He wrote, "Whoever loves himself too much cannot freely serve God. The hands are tied." And his solution is as direct today as it was in the 15th century. Learn to forget yourself and you will find peace.
I want to transition to a quote here from the Bible teacher Derek Prince, because this is where the theology really hits the pavement of our modern lives. First, he identifies the core issue, stating, "The greatest enemy of love is self-centeredness." But here's where it gets really interesting. He offers this incredible observation. When we begin to serve others, God begins to sort out our own needs.
That is a profoundly comforting thought, but it requires an immense amount of trust.
Let's just sit with that for a second.
Yeah.
Think about the sheer anxiety relief in that statement. Think about the multi-billion-dollar self-care and self-optimization industry that surrounds us.
Oh, it's everywhere.
So many of us are utterly exhausted because we are frantically trying to fix ourselves. We are endlessly analyzing our own trauma, trying to orchestrate our own healing, managing our boundaries, hyper-focusing on our personal growth. It is an exhausting treadmill.
It is the earthly equivalent of that soul in the spiritual realm, sitting in the dark, shining the spotlight on its own face, wondering why it still feels so miserable.
Yes, exactly. But Derek Prince is saying, step off the treadmill. You don't have to fix yourself.
Right.
By simply turning your attention to serving others, you invite God to step in and sort out your needs for you. You let the divine surgeon do the work.
It is a total surrender of the ego's control. You are trusting that the divine law of love is infinitely more capable of healing you, of sorting out your complex internal needs, than your own frantic, self-directed efforts.
Right.
It is laying down the burden of being your own savior.
So what does this all mean? How do we bring this into our Tuesday afternoon? How do we actually practice this so we don't end up building that spiritual prison of self-love right here on earth?
Well, our sources provide a beautifully simple, highly practical guide, broken down into 3 steps.
Let's go through them.
The first step is an inner examination. It requires a moment of quiet, brutal honesty with oneself. The text prompts you to take a moment today and ask yourself 2 very specific diagnostic questions. First, do I mainly think of my own problems? And second, Do I still see the distress of other people?
Do I still see the distress of other people? That word still carries so much weight.
It really does.
It implies an awareness that maybe we used to see it, but over time, the glare of the spotlight on our own pain has blinded us. It's a necessary, humbling diagnostic check.
Once you've recognized where your focus lies, the second step is to act, to perform a small, conscious act of helpfulness.
And what we must understand is that these don't need to be grand, world-changing gestures. The text lists 3 very accessible options. You can speak encouraging words to someone, you can offer practical, physical help with a daily task, or you can engage in intercessory prayer.
Yes, simply praying earnestly for the well-being of someone else.
Exactly. Just a small act opens the heart.
We have to ground this back in the cosmic reality we've been discussing. The scale of the action doesn't matter. The direction of the intention does. A small act of helpfulness isn't just being a nice person. It is an act of spiritual warfare against your own ego.
Wow, yes.
Even the smallest act of outward-facing love begins to crack open the hardened shell of self-centeredness. It is shattering the spotlight.
Finally, step 3 is prayer. A deliberate, spoken asking for divine assistance in this process, because changing our ingrained human nature is incredibly hard.
Prayer is the ultimate acknowledgement that we cannot save ourselves through our own willpower. We need God to change our hearts.
We really do.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source provides 2 short, very moving prayers for this exact purpose. I want to read them slowly.
Please do.
The first is a simple plea. Lord, free my heart from self-centeredness and teach me love.
And the second, the closing prayer of the guide, really encapsulates everything we've unpacked today. It reads, Lord, take the self-love from my heart. Teach me to see others and to serve them. Let your love work through me so that I too may find the way to you. Amen.
Take the self-love from my heart. It's a prayer of total surrender. Take my ego, replace it with your love, and let that love be the vehicle that carries me home.
It is incredibly powerful. As we wrap up this deep dive, let's just briefly trace the journey we've been on.
It's been quite a journey.
We started in the dark, restrictive trap of self-love described in Bertha Dudde's 1943 revelation. A spiritual state where clinging to our own survival instincts and ignoring the pain of others traps us in an endless agony of our own making.
Right.
We explore the deep biblical paradox that giving out of our emptiness is the only way to receive, and how forgetting ourselves is the only way to clear the room for God to work.
Emptying the room.
Yes. And finally, we looked at how small, daily, intentional acts of service are the very mechanics of breaking down the walls of our ego.
It is a profound shift from seeking healing for oneself to becoming a vessel of healing for others and miraculously finding oneself healed in the process. Letting Jesus be your doctor means letting him change where you are looking.
The source material leaves us with one final impulse for everyday life, and it is a perfect summary of our time today. It says, the more a person makes themselves the center, the narrower their inner life becomes. But where love begins, the path to God opens.
I want to sincerely thank you for joining us in this depthly spiritual contemplation today. It has been an honor to explore these profound, life-altering truths with you.
And as you step back out into your day, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Think about the areas of your life right now where you feel the most stuck, the most confined, or the most deeply unhappy. What if the walls of that inner prison are constructed entirely out of your own self-focus? And what if the key to breaking out isn't to buy another book or think harder and harder about your own problems, but simply to turn around, look at the person next to you, and ask how you can help?